I never thought the person I loved the most would be the one to end my life. It still haunts me. The way he smiled at me that morning, kissed my forehead like everything was fine, while secretly planning my death. My name is Emily, and this is the story of how my husband betrayed me, destroyed me for another woman, and how fate gave me a second chance. One that I will use to bury the ones who tried to erase me. I met Daniel when I was just 22. He was charming, ambitious, and made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. In the beginning, everything was perfect. He would bring me flowers for no reason, leave little notes in my bag, hold my hand like he never wanted to let go. I thought I had found the kind of love people write about in fairy tales. I trusted him with my life, and that was my biggest mistake. Looking back now, there were signs, little things I ignored, because love makes you blind. Late night calls he wouldn't explain, the way he'd pull away when I asked simple questions, the distant look in his eyes when he thought I wasn't watching. But every time doubt crept in, he'd wrap me in his arms and whisper that he loved me, and I would push my fears aside. I wanted to believe in us. Then came Amanda. At first, she was just a name, a friend from work, someone Daniel mentioned casually over dinner. I didn't think much of it. I wasn't the jealous type, but slowly, Amanda's name started to come up, more and more. Office parties, late meetings, weekend conferences that somehow always included her. And with each mention, a piece of me started to crack. One rainy Thursday night, Daniel didn't come home. His phone was off. His friends hadn't seen him. I stayed up all night, pacing the living room, replaying every conversation, every moment. That suddenly felt too suspicious. When he finally stumbled in at dawn, smelling of cheap perfume and guilt, he mumbled something about getting stuck at work and collapsed into bed. I sat there beside him, staring at the man I thought I knew, feeling like a stranger had crept into my home. I should have left that morning. I should have packed my bags and walked away. But love makes you hold on, even when everything inside you screams to let go. For weeks, things grew colder between us. He barely looked at me. Conversations became short, forced. My heart ached for the man he used to be. I tried to fix things, suggesting counseling, weekend getaways, anything, to bring us back, but he had already made his choice. I just didn't know how far he was willing to go to erase me from his life. The day it happened was strangely normal, sunny, quiet. He asked me to meet him at our favorite park, said he wanted to talk, to clear the air between us. A small part of me dared to hope that maybe he wanted to fix things. Maybe he remembered the love we once shared. I wore the blue dress he used to love, the one he said made my eyes sparkle. I even brought him his favorite coffee. I wanted so badly for things to go back to how they were. I sat on the bench, waiting, smiling nervously at every passerby, clutching the coffee cups in my hands. He arrived 10 minutes late, a cold, distant look on his face. No hug, no smile, just a tight-lipped nod. He sat down beside me and said, "I need you to trust me, Emily. Just one more time." I nodded, heart pounding, tears already stinging my eyes. He stood up, offered me his hand, and like a fool, I took it. We walked along the trail, deeper and deeper into the woods, where no one could see us. I started to feel uneasy, but every time I hesitated, he would squeeze my hand tighter, whisper soothing words that felt more like a trap than comfort. When we reached the clearing, I saw her, Amanda, waiting, arms crossed, a cruel smirk on her face. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a setup. I barely had time to react. I turned to Daniel, confusion written all over my face. But before I could speak, I felt the sharp push, Pain exploded in my chest, and everything blurred. The ground rushed up to meet me, and the last thing I saw was Daniel and Amanda standing over me, whispering something I couldn't make out. I remember the cold, the silence, the darkness swallowing me whole, and then nothing until I woke up somewhere between life and death. God gave me a second chance. I don't know why. Maybe it was unfinished business. Maybe it was pure mercy. All I know is I wasn't gone. Not yet. My body was weak, battered, but alive. And my heart, oh my heart, was burning with a new fire. A fire for justice. A fire for revenge. I was no longer the naive girl who believed, in fairy tales, that Emily was gone. In her place stood a woman who had tasted betrayal, who had been buried alive by the ones she trusted most, and who would stop at nothing to make them pay. They thought they had buried me for good, but they forgot. Seeds buried in darkness don't die, they grow, and I was coming back to bury them. One by one, when I woke up in that small, cold hospital room, it felt like coming back from the dead. My body was weak, stitched together with pain and betrayal, but my mind was sharper than ever. The nurse told me I had been found barely breathing, near the woods by a jogger, who just happened to take a wrong turn. She said it was a miracle I was alive. I knew better. It wasn't a mistake. It was fate. I wasn't saved just to survive. I was saved to finish what Daniel and Amanda started. Didn't tell anyone who I was. I gave the hospital a fake name. I didn't even let them call my husband. I knew if Daniel found out I was alive, he would finish the job properly next time. I couldn't let that happen. I had to be smarter now. I had to be colder. So I waited, quietly healing, slowly gathering my strength, while inside me, the plan was already forming. Over the next few weeks, I pieced together the life I had left behind. From the small phone the nurse gave me, I found the truth staring at me right through the glass screen. Daniel and Amanda weren't even hiding anymore. They had posted pictures together, smiling, laughing, celebrating. They were living the life they stole from me. They even moved into the house I once decorated with so much love. My wedding photos were gone. My clothes, my memories, erased, like I never even existed. The anger burned hotter than any pain I had felt before, but anger alone wasn't enough. I needed a plan. I needed patience. I found a small room to rent under a new identity. I got a simple job at a diner across town, a place where nobody would recognize me. Day by day, I rebuilt myself. I went from barely able to lift a spoon to working double shifts, carrying heavy trays, smiling at customers who had no idea about the storm raging inside me. I spent my nights planning, learning everything I could about Daniel and Amanda's new life. Amanda had moved into Daniel's company too, taking a position she wasn't qualified for. It didn't take long to find out she wasn't just after Daniel's heart. She was after his money. What Daniel didn't know was that Amanda had a long history of jumping from man to man, using them until there was nothing left, then disappearing. She had done it before, and she would do it again. But this time, she picked the wrong man, because he picked the wrong woman to betray. I started leaving small reminders of me, where Daniel could find them. A scarf left at his favorite cafe, a note tucked into his car window, written in the same handwriting he once said he loved. Little things, enough to make him question his sanity. I needed him to feel haunted, to feel the weight of what he had done, and it worked. One night after my shift, I followed him from a distance. I watched him sitting alone in his car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly, his knuckles turned white. He kept looking over his shoulder, jumping at every sound. He was braking, and I wasn't done yet. Amanda, on the other hand, was thriving. She had Daniel wrapped around her little finger. She flaunted their relationship everywhere, spending money like it would never run out. But she underestimated me. She thought I was dead and forgotten. She thought she had won. Little did she know, I was closer than she ever imagined. I also discovered something else, something that changed everything. Amanda wasn't loyal to Daniel at all. She had another man on the side. A rich investor she was quietly meeting, planning her next move once she drained Daniel dry. It made my blood boil. After everything, he still hadn't seen the truth about her. But I would make sure he did. The closer I got, the more dangerous it became. There were moments I almost lost my nerve. Times I wondered if it was better to just walk away, to start a new life somewhere far from all the pain. But then I would remember the feel of Daniel's hands pushing me into the ground, the sound of Amanda's laugh as I gasped for breath, and I knew I couldn't leave without justice. Every story has a breaking point, and mine was coming. I set everything into motion one rainy evening, the kind of night that made the city streets shine with reflections and secrets. I sent Daniel a message from an anonymous number, telling him to meet at the place where everything began, the park, the same bench where he once looked me in the eyes and lied. Meanwhile, Amanda received a different message, one promising her a meeting with her secret lover, offering a deal too tempting to resist. They both would come, drawn by their own guilt and greed, and I would be waiting. As the clock ticked down, my heart pounded against my ribs like a war drum. I stood hidden among the trees, the same woods where they thought they had buried me once before. But this time, I was stronger. This time, I wasn't the prey. The rain started to fall harder, soaking through my jacket, chilling me to the bone, but I barely noticed. All I could see was the ending I had been waiting for, just within my reach. I watched as Daniel arrived first, his face pale, scanning the shadows. He clutched his phone tightly, his eyes wide and fearful. Not the confident man I had married. Not the man who thought he could play with lives without consequences. A few minutes later, Amanda appeared, struggling with an umbrella, annoyed by the weather, by the inconvenience. She didn't notice Daniel at first, too busy checking her reflection in the puddles. For a moment they stood there, confused, glancing around, and then their eyes met. Confusion twisted into horror, because standing right behind them, stepping out from the shadows, was me, alive, breathing, and ready. Their mouths opened, but no words came out, and in that heavy, heart-stopping silence, they realized something far too late. They hadn't buried me. They had awakened me, and I wasn't here to beg for answers. I was here to end it. The rain poured harder, the sound of it slapping against the ground, drowning out everything else. The world seemed to pause for a moment, a stillness hanging in the air as Daniel and Amanda stared at me, their faces drained of color. They were both frozen, caught between disbelief and fear. I thought you were dead, Daniel whispered, his voice barely a breath, shaking with panic. Amanda, her lips trembling, finally found her voice. How are you? How is this even possible? Her words were sharp, but there was no anger in them, only the raw edge of fear. I stepped closer, the rain now soaking me completely. But it didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the look on their faces, the horror, the guilt, the regret. I had been so consumed with anger and pain, but now that I was standing here, I realized something else. I was free. I didn't need to play their games anymore. They didn't control me anymore. You thought you could get away with it, didn't you? I said, my voice low, steady. You thought I wouldn't come back, but here I am, and I'm not going anywhere. Daniel took a step back, almost as if he was trying to distance himself from me. He was a man who once held my heart, my trust. Now he was nothing more than a coward in my eyes. I didn't want this to happen, he stammered. I was confused. Amanda, his words faltered, and he looked at Amanda as if for reassurance. But there was no comfort there. Amanda, on the other hand, took a defensive step forward, trying to cover up her fear with anger. You think this is my fault? She snapped, her voice shaking. You don't even know the truth. But she couldn't finish. The words caught in her throat as her gaze flickered to me, to the woman she had thought was dead. I could see the realization dawn on her. She wasn't just fighting for a man, she was fighting for her own survival. The silence that followed was deafening. It wasn't the silence of anticipation, but the kind that settles over you when you know your fate has already been sealed. They had no escape. I had waited long enough, and now they would feel the weight of their actions. But not with violence, not with hate. I didn't need that anymore. They had already buried themselves. I'm not here to hurt you, I said, calmly, watching the tension ripple across their faces. But I will make sure you understand what you did. You betrayed me. You stole my life. And now it's time to face the consequences. I pulled a small envelope from my pocket. The edges crinkled, but the contents sharp and clear. Inside was a series of photographs, pictures of Daniel and Amanda, taken from the moment they thought I was gone. Photos of their secret meetings, their stolen kisses, their whispered conversations. Pictures that showed how far they had gone to cover up their lies, thinking no one would find out. The proof was all here. I've already taken care of everything, I said, handing them the envelope. The truth is already out there. The lies you built, they're exposed. You won't be able to run from this. Daniel's eyes widened as he fumbled with the envelope, the color draining from his face as he saw the photographs. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Amanda's face twisted in disbelief, her grip on her umbrella tightening. She had thought she was untouchable, but now she was just as vulnerable as Daniel. You're both going to lose everything, I said softly. Your wealth, your reputation, your connection to this city. It's all over. I could feel the cold sting of satisfaction in my chest. But it wasn't because I wanted to see them suffer. It was because they finally understood the power of the truth. They didn't fight back. They didn't even try to explain themselves. They just stood there, broken, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I turned away from them, walking back into the night. The rain was still coming down in sheets, but it didn't matter. I was free. They had no more power over me, no more control, and as I walked, I felt a quiet strength settle inside me, something I hadn't felt in so long. It was over. As I walked away, I couldn't help but think about everything that had led me here. The pain, the betrayal, the lies. But more than that, I thought about the second chance I had been given. A second life, a new beginning that I never expected. I had been broken, but I wasn't beyond repair, and now I would be the one to decide my future. No one else. I didn't need revenge anymore. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. I just needed to live. And as I disappeared into the darkness, I knew one thing for sure. I was no longer the woman they had tried to bury. I was reborn. And this time, I would bury them, not in the way they expected, but in a way that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. I walked away, the sound of my footsteps fading into the night. The world was mine now, and it was just beginning.